Our Doris has developed an unhealthy obsession with slugs. She's in the garden from breakfast until the one show, finding the beggars and pouring salt on them. She likes to watch them die, keeps her eyes peeled as they shrink, curling in on themselves until they resemble, well, dead slugs really. I never was one for similes. A dead slug is a dead slug in my book, and you can beg her off trying to tell me otherwise.
Hi everyone, my name is Charlie, and today marks 10 years since the release of my debut book, Our Doris. And today I thought I'd just come here and commemorate it, celebrate all the people that supported me throughout the writing of this book, and perhaps discuss why I think it ended up being my most successful book. Firstly, I will say what a published writer said to me recently when I said that I have acknowledged ever since this book came out that this book is the most successful book that I have ever released. And this author told me, well, of course, it's because of the fear of missing out. Your first book is always going to be more successful because just in case you might be successful in future and you might be a big time author in the future, people are going to want to say they've got the first book. I'm like, well, that's all well and good. That's fun. But I have some other ideas that I might want to talk about here. If you didn't know, then the Our Doris books follow the character of Mrs. Doris Copeland as she tries to climb to the top of the social ladder. She is a member of the local WI, she is in her 70s, and she can be rather mean to folk in her efforts to get what she wants. And all of these books are told from her long-suffering husband, Harold. And it's very much inspired by my adoration of classic British sitcoms. The writing style, I wish to emulate Roy Clark, Victoria Wood and Alan Bennett. And a lot of the writing and the way that this book was written was all to do with sound and making sure that it sounded correctly. There we go. That is the preamble for Our Doris. In this first book, she is trying to gain 5th house in her local garden safari. It's a bit like if Hyacinth Bucket was given an anti-tank gun. Let's talk about the origins of Our Doris. I have always said that this book began because of a writing workshop hosted by Phil Poyser for the Macclesfield Creative Writing Group back in 2011 or 12. To be fair, that is true. The line, Our Doris has developed an unhealthy obsession with slugs, did come about because we were 10 minutes into a 15-minute writing burst, and it was supposed to be on the subject of gardening, and I did not know, nor do I know, anything about gardening, and so I wrote that line. And then from that point onwards, whenever I would get stuck, I would write a story about Doris and Harold. Recently, I remembered how the tale in the back of this book, Bread, which I added as an additional extra for anybody, you know, because it was there. Bread was a short monologue that I wrote for university. It was led by Joe Bell, and I can't really remember why we had to write it, but I can remember. So basically, when I first started at uni, I would get a lift off my friend who lived on the street next to us, but my course didn't start until 11 o'clock in the morning, and I'd often be there at about 8. And so rather than go to the library on this one day, I turned up and went straight into the room that we used and started typing, and I came up with the story Bread that is featured in here. Originally, I'm going to look for the draft because I don't know if they were called Doris and Harold in the original draft of that story. I think that it was slugs where they gained the names Doris and Harold, and then after that I recognised that they were the same two characters who'd appeared in Bread. So I just changed it because everybody knew about Doris. One of the reasons that I think that Our Doris was more successful than any of my other books is because I was incredibly lucky that anyone who had an opportunity for another writer, they shared those opportunities with me. Like my friend Margaret Holbrook, who I'm currently touring Stockport with. If she was attending an open mic, then she would ask me whether I wanted to go. She would she and her husband would pick me up at the bottom of my road, and we would go off to Kidsgrove, we'd go off to Congleton, Goose Tree, Chapel-on-le-Frith, Stockport. We went all over Cheshire and the surrounding areas with our tales, and I would regularly come along with the bits of Doris that I'd got. So I'd bring bread, slugs, I think teeth as well. Short excerpts, because you generally only got about 3 to 5 minutes to read. And so for about 2 years, I was reading these stories about Doris to people. And I know that in terms of the writers group, it was 4 years from the first Doris tale until the book came out. Whenever something came up, I would generally have this opportunity to go and share Doris, and the audience members and people who were hearing these tales were incredibly supportive. And at the time, I was quite young, you know, I was writing these snippets from when I was 19 until the book came out when I was 22, but I was 23 a month later. So for about 4 years, I was working on snippets and putting this book together. And I think had it not been for the power of community, this book would not have been as successful. If it hadn't been for Margaret and Joy giving me these opportunities of being able to go around to open mics and events, then word wouldn't have got out about Doris and people wouldn't have heard of her. So that when I began doing events myself for the book and author panels and that sort of thing, people already had an idea of who Doris was and wanted to see what she was going to get up to. It's almost like when a singer releases an album having released singles beforehand. People want to see what the full body of work is going to be like. And I don't like last year I put out a video saying how I failed as an author, worried that I had squandered everything because after having such success with Doris, you know, I sold out within the first 2 days of the book being out, so I had to order more. And like I say, I lost count of the number of copies that I sold in the 2 years between Our Doris and Indisputably Doris. And it was a good problem to have, but also it left me with this feeling like I would not be able to replicate that success with a sequel. And we all know about the period of unfathomable sadness which came after releasing Doris and experiencing the success and not knowing how to write another book and just stopping writing for months, you know, not knowing whether I would write another Doris book, even though I'd got the plans there. And it's only recently that I've started looking at writing that I wrote pre-2016 and not feeling the huge weight that I did back then. Still incredibly proud of Doris, and I'm still incredibly grateful that I did have the community there helping me. Indeed, after the publication of Doris, I joined YouTube, and I have been incredibly lucky that booktubers have heard about my books and they've gone on to read them and they've gone on to review them. If you can continue doing that, then that would be great. One of my aims is currently I'm at 59 reviews of Our Doris on Goodreads. If we could get that to 60, that'd be fantastic. If I could get it to 100, I'd be thrilled. Because I know that I've sold more than 100 copies of that book. Even if all of the reviews of that book are 1 to 2 star and they dramatically reduce the rating, that's fine. I can cope. I've coped with worse. YouTube brought a different sense of community there, a different sense of support, and also helps to make Doris somewhat more worldwide than she had been. I mean, before joining YouTube, I did get to speak to a reading group in South Africa and did a giveaway with them, and it's such an odd thing that Our Doris did for me, the opportunities that arose from this book that I didn't see replicated with any of the other books. Now, at one point I did wonder if I was cursed because of the fact that I released An Heir to Murder and a global pandemic happened. I released Royally Doris and the Queen died on the day of its release. So I was very worried when I released Mistakes Mean Murder about what would happen, but luckily it seems that all the horrors, Mistakes Mean Murder wise, happened during the writing of that book, and I'm hoping that they, you know, I've had my measure of them, I've had my fill throughout the writing of that one. Let's hope nothing happens whilst writing the charity shop book, Touchwood, Sod's Law and all that. Whilst the success from Doris might have come from the fact that it was my first book, and so people wished to get in there early in case I made it big time. I do think that there is a lot to be said for the power of word of mouth. So Phil Poyser, who led the initial workshop that inspired the first line of Our Doris, he also regularly went out of his way to purchase copies. So he would buy copies for himself and for his friends. Every time a birthday came around when this book came out, he bought someone a copy of the book. Christmas, I think he bought at least 5 copies of the book. And just sometimes whenever he's thinking of something funny or humorous, I am incredibly lucky. He has been an incredibly supportive person and regularly purchased Doris alongside all my other books. But it's that sort of thing of like the word of mouth of people saying, oh, you're looking for something funny, you're looking for something light-hearted. Oh, here's Our Doris. Or just recommending the book to people. I think that me going around and getting these opportunities, that was great, and it allowed me to meet more people than I was probably comfortable with, because we know I am very comfortable just to hide in my house most of the time. But I think that honestly, the best thing that anybody can do for a writer, if they, if you can't buy their book, if you don't have the means to, but you've enjoyed it, like you can get the books from the library, or if you've read the book and you wish to support the writer and continue that support, tell your friends about them. Tell your friends about their books, what you enjoyed about their books. Review their books online and make sure that more people are aware that these books exist. Because it's through word of mouth and through community that writers are able to enjoy success. And I am incredibly grateful over the last 10 years for the people that have supported me and continued to maintain that support. I know that had it not been for people giving me opportunities and giving me a step on the ladder when it came to the release of Our Doris and just pushing me to actually bring the book out and set myself up as a publisher and gain all these events, I know that I would just probably have 500 copies of a book languishing under my bed or being used as loft insulation. So I am incredibly grateful for everybody who has picked up my books over the last 10 years, who has been incredibly supportive of these tales, who I'm probably made cry with the final book in the series. But I'm grateful for every single person who's contacted me, left a review, sent me messages, contacted me outside of the YouTube sphere. I am grateful for everybody who's read it, whether you've enjoyed it or not. If you absolutely despise this book, and I know there are people who have advised other readers to skip this one in the series, I am just glad that you gave me the time of day. So thank you. Thank you for still being here after 10 years. Thank you for continuing to be incredibly supportive of Our Doris and my subsequent books, and to wherever I go next on my publishing journey, because there are more books planned, and although they might not feature Doris and Harold anymore, I have been grateful for everything, and I'm just full of gratitude and coffee. See, back when this book came out, I wasn't much of a coffee drinker, but that's what age brings you. Exhaustion. Anyway, once again, thank you. That's all I can say. I won't be here if it weren't for thee. So, I hope you got something out of this video. If you have been working on a book, if you have a novel there and you have been wondering about independently publishing it, or you want to try the traditional publishing route, just give it a go. Just get it done. Get it out there. It's no point languishing in a drawer somewhere. Just do it. And if you're wondering how it's going to be received, contact a local open mic, see whether they allow you to go and read a snippet, and just good luck. Because until next time, that is all.
Longitude or latitude, my attitude is gratitude.